Very good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's talk about the turmoil in Burundi. Has changed the way in which people receive and get information. Let's talk about radio stations, most popular radio stations being shut down, and sort of the effects of what's been taking place and how it's affecting the people of Burundi.
Well, thank you for the question. As it has been reported already in the past, since the crisis started in April 2015, one of the major first action step that the government of Pierre Nkurunziza took was to shut down all the media, private-owned media. And unfortunately, most of the population in the country were being formed through these media channels. But the government was so ruthless, they went so far as closing social media network, Facebook, WhatsApp. People are getting arrested for having text on WhatsApp. So there's really no means of communicating in Burundi. And a lot of people, civil rights activists, have been voicing this out. They've been asking for the media channels to be opened again. But unfortunately, all this have failed to a deaf ear from our government. And until to this date, only the state-owned television and radio station is operating in Burundi.
Of course, there's concern surrounding the safety of journalists. A third of your reporters have been forced into exile. Am I correct? Yes. And social media then allows people to get or attract the attention of your international community. So before I get to South Africa's role with Burundi, the conversation we were having before, let's talk about the kind of attention you've been attracting internationally and what their response has been to what's happening.
Look, there are members of diplomatic corps who are present in the country, and obviously they are witnessing what is going on in Burundi. And I would say that most of the limited news that get out of the activities and ongoing crackdown on the population and civilians, which is happening, which is going on, is only reported by few international journalists who managed to come in the country. Because as you stated correctly, our local journalists, most of them have been killed, others are languishing in jail, others have been forced to flee the country. So it's very difficult for news to come out of what is happening. And I think in a way, the government use that loophole. They take advantage of that to commit more exactions because they know that the international community is not knowing exactly what is going on in the country. So that is one point of worry.
Now back to the conversation you and I were having earlier about how South Africa played a very integral role, an important role in Burundi in the times of former President Nelson Mandela, and you were talking to me about the kind of impact he made when it came to mediation. When you look at the time then and the kind of impact South Africa had, in Burundi and now, do you feel as though South Africa has neglected the cause?
Well, it's not too late. Let me start there. It's not too late because I think South Africa is still trying to play a role in their capacity as much as they can. But I think they have first allowed the East African community, which is the regional bloc that Burundi falls under, to first try and mediate. However, I would like to say that South Africa have a unique capability on this continent to mitigate conflicts, and that was shown previously when they intervened in our country. They decided to send their troops when many other international bodies like the AU and the UN had refused to do so. But South Africa committed their troops to Burundi, and the 2000 peace agreement that was signed in Arusha was a result of that action, of that involvement of South Africa. So even today, we as Burundians still look up to this country. We believe that our solution is not going to come from America or from Europe, it's going to come from our local brothers. And if there's anyone who's capable of doing that, is South Africa. Another example I can use is our neighbor DRC. South Africa have also shown in DRC that they can commit and change things on the ground very fast. When the M23 was difficult, they have defied the biggest UN saving mission in the DRC. But when South Africa intervened there, in less than 3 months, the M23 rebels nearly disappeared. So we are also hoping that South Africa will soon take the matter of Burundi into their own hands and take the situation of Burundi very seriously and do something, because we know if South Africa can intervene, surely it will save a lot of lives and things can change, which we believe they ought to do, because there's a legacy that they have built in that country, and they should protect that legacy. So we appeal to the South African government and President Zuma in particular, because he helped a lot. He mediated when he was a premier back then. He put so much effort during that time to get the peace gains that we got during that time. So we believe they shouldn't allow that to go in vain. They should do something.
Now, with the people of Burundi having to resort to social media, Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp, let's talk about the verification of reports before being published, which becomes a very big problem, because then, you know, other people are using social media to sort of mislead the people of Burundi. And, you know, what do you make of that? What happens around verification and credibility of information?
That is true, but we also have to remember that there's only a tiny pocket of the population of Burundi which have access to this social media, to internet and things like Facebook or mobile phones. But those who have access to it, unfortunately, some of them use these channels to mislead the population or the international community. But I would confidently say that the situation is so bad that few people have take chances to go on social media to send information which is not correct. If such instances happen, most of the time they have come from the government, which is trying to dismiss the information which is going out, because they don't want an intervention from outside. Yeah, but in most cases, most of the information that is getting out, one can say that it's reliable, because usually it's confirmed by researchers and other international humanitarians who are on the ground. So I can say that it's reliable information.
Earlier you were talking about the negative effects of, you know, completely shutting down media, where someone could be responsible for the massacre of hundreds of people, and no one in the world would know, because there's no media reporting on it. So talk to us about some of those negative effects, you know, that you experience as people of Burundi when media is shut down.
I think one of the first things that we would ask the international community or the stakeholders who are helping in mediating the Burundian crisis is to put a bit of pressure to the current president, Pierre Nkurunziza, to open the media, the radio and the TV station that were closed down during that time. Because exactly like you're saying, those were the only sources that the population had to get information. And unfortunately, without those sources, the youth militia, for instance, which is a group of the Youth League for the ruling party, which have been armed and transformed into a police and an army in its own right, in its own way, they take opportunity of such absence of media to commit rape, mass exactions, violence, because they know that no one is knowing what is going on in the country. So the government officials right now are taking opportunity of that, and we believe there should be much pressure from outside to open up those media channels that have been closed, because it's causing much harm in the country. A lot of rape is happening, and right now there have been a lot of reports of trafficking, child trafficking. Over 2,500 kids have been taken out of the country since last year. These are things that are happening. The government officials knowing it, because these kids go out, their traveling documents are given by government officials. It's given through the immigration office. So the government cannot say that they have no hand in it when they're supposed to protect these things from happening. And all this is happening because there's no much awareness outside. The outside world doesn't know about it. And all this is a result of closing down those media channels. So it's critical to open them at this particular time.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Tonight and for your insight. We hope to have you soon and have more discourse and discussions surrounding Burundi. Of course, I'd like to thank my studio guest, political Burundian activist Raphael Mbonimpa.